So ever since the Star Wars Outlaws trailer released online, discourse amongst gamers has exploded on social media, with many people in disagreement over whether the main character of Outlaws is attractive or not. And it seems that a lot of people cannot find common ground in this conversation, with people in the gaming industry making arguments for art complications or lighting complications, essentially trying to find any excuse to justify why the character looks nothing like the supermodel actress that they used to cast and scan for that character, but also just making her look as manly, bland, and uninteresting as possible in order to make her look more scoundrel-like. That is the excuse that I hear often. And for some reason, a lot of these people making these arguments have forgotten that there is a pattern of this going on in the gaming industry. There are execs up at the very top of companies like Microsoft pushing for this very idea, where they want to make their characters in video games unattractive. There's proof of this online. They wrote an entire article about the thing. But people keep ignoring this because they want to pretend that this Star Wars game that's coming out is going to save the franchise and it's going to be one of Ubisoft's best games ever. But I'm not so sure about that. And we're going to read something from Grummz here, because these people in the gaming industry, they're coming out mostly from Riot today. Riot Games, League of Legends, a game that I have played ever since 2011 on and off. I'm really good at that game now. I play Teemo and Shen and I mix it up a bunch. I don't play Fiora, a character that we're going to be talking about. But you guys got to see this post for yourself, and then we're going to dig a little bit deeper because this thing goes quite a ways. From Grummz, the Riot Artist, who told me to F off about Star Wars Outlaws, Iron Stylus, who made League of Legends Fiora uglier, is a political activist, calls my followers dipsh suckers. He tried to blame it on complexity of doing game art, but his real agenda is found in his earlier tweets. You have an obligation to advance social justice. You are not just making art. Artists have a responsibility to wrap diversity and justice in the consumable. So apparently this guy who changed the art for Fiora did not like that he had to make her pretty once they caved to fans' demands to make her pretty. I guess they were trying to make her face as chiseled and villainous as possible, but gamers didn't like that, and they called for action to change the art. Now apparently these guys fought against it. They're like, we want her to be ugly, but Michael is keeping it together, sort of. This is the Iron Stylus guy. So once again, Mark and his dipsh suckers can F off, because anyone actually making games is making the best thing they can with the resources they can, and I'd love to see a gamer slash grifter even try to make something functional and tasteful. And this is where he says, extremely lukewarm take. As a game developer, a manufacturer of cultural content which specializes in resonance, you have an obligation to advance social justice and diverse representation. So this is something that we have seen pushed in other DEI companies. Just anybody that is pushing for this DEI nonsense in video games and in movies, entertainment, etc., they all say the exact same thing one day or another. The reality is that when people watch the Star Wars Outlaws trailer, they can see a couple of good angles where this character looks alright, but then most of the trailer, you just see these horrid facial animations where this character just looks awful in many instances, and people are calling that out, but for some reason, there's a denial there. And it's so strange to see that Riot employees or former Riot employees are all coming out of the woodwork seemingly in a similar time frame to say something naughty about gamers. You guys got to see this. There's more about this. Former Riot Games PR manager Chris Hines says, vibrating intensely as I manifest the reality where everyone just ignores all these Gamergate dorks and they fade into oblivion. They are a vanishingly small segment of spiteful fail-sons who simply can't shut the F up. That's quite a big thing to say about gamers. And this was just today. This was, just a few hours ago. Kind of insane that he said that. Chris Hines is the husbando to Leslie Anch. I'm sorry about the M-dashes, co-founder of Ignition Facility, helping game studios out. X Play One More Game, X Amazon, X Riot Games. So this guy used to work at Riot Games too, and they just can't help but come out against gamers and attack the very people who just want a fun video game with characters that don't look like garbage and don't want DEI nonsense pushed in their stuff, but it's okay. We've got another person who decided that they needed to say something too. Odyssey Studio Marketing Director Ryan K. Rigney on clapping back at angry gamers on Reddit. So somebody had posted, and this is a response to what an Arrowhead developer said on Reddit, saying, I'm feeling the rage a little for my own entertainment here. Just so you know, we haven't nerfed anything into the ground. I just think it's a little too early to pretend like the game is figured out. People were complaining about having their weapons nerfed and other weapons buffed. Ryan K. Rigney had to say something. Clap Clapping back at angry gamers on Reddit as a dev is always so tempting, but you basically need to roll nat 20s on persuasion and humor to pull it off successfully. Many a good dev has fallen in the attempt. Godspeed to the Helldivers team. And if you look at what this guy has done, it says, in 2015, I realized that League of Legends players love to be verbally spanked and rode the wave to a comms lead job. And look where the comms lead job led this person. Marketing director at Odyssey Studio, led comms on Play Apex and League of Legends and PUBG. I write a spicy weekly newsletter for games industry pros. And this is just further proof that these people in the game industry do not have gamers' best interests at heart. They're always in constant friction with the ideas that gamers have. It always seems to be on the other side when it comes to anything that we have to say. And for most of this situation, it's Riot Games employees. Funny enough, when I go to the Iron Stylist's page to see what kind of things he's posted, it seems that he's been really excited that Grummz was talking about him, because on this post of 15,000 likes, it says, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. And this is in response to Grummz's post saying, former Riot artist calls me out and attempts to explain why Star Wars Outlaws looks the way it does. Very long and boring post about how art is hard, scans show too much detail, and then he complains he was forced to make Riot's character look more beautiful, but he fought against it. Games are basically misogynistic because they want women with makeup like the real life actor wear daily, and only want jerk off baits. That's it. That's what this entire screed boils down to. Saved you the read. And people were really upset about this in the comments because they're all trying to support this guy. And I found something interesting when I was trying to read some of these tweets. I see that somebody blocked me here, and when I went onto my other Twitter account just to see who it was, I saw that it was Nick Calandra. Apparently, Nick Calandra blocked me. This is a guy that tried to expose Grummz, saying that he's been scamming people out of money for his fake video game, and I guess Grummz was going to go after him legally, although he retracted what he was going to do, saying that he would have to prove that he was being personally damaged by this guy's comments. And ever since, this guy has not given up on keeping an eye on what Grummz does. And it's very weird that I'm blocked. I wonder if this is another blockchain, but it always seems that when these people come out and say these things about Grummz or anybody else, they preemptively block other users who may be associated with that person. So I had to open up my second Twitter just to take a look at what was being said here. And what I found was quite interesting. He says, I like out of everyone that has called him out, he has still not screenshotted, tagged, or called me out by name first and last, because he kept the legal threat one vague. LOL. I wonder why. And he's saying this while at the same time preemptively blocking somebody that he's never met, being completely unwilling to have any kind of conversation. Very rich coming from this individual. And by the way, this is on that post of 15,000 likes where this guy was super excited that Grummz was talking about him. And he responded to what Nick said, saying, dude, he has such an inability to actually confront people who call him out because he knows he's a fraud in an industry where everyone hates him. You do God's work. And I guess God's work is blocking people who disagree before they even have a chance to say anything about it. And if you want to take a look at Nick Calandra's stuff, co-founder and editor-in-chief at Second Wind Group, producer on SS Vagabond, former editor-in-chief of The Escapist. So there you go. Former editor-in-chief for the media. Go figure. But there's more to this because this is apparently a jackpot of game industry pundits. Check this out. Damian Schubert, creative director at Boss Fight, a Netflix game studio focused on MMOs, RPGs, social systems, monetization, advocate for putting treasure behind waterfalls. And he said he blocked me 10 years ago, so it's pretty remarkable how he says stuff so amazingly dumb that I can still see a lot of it from other peeps' screenshots. But yeah, the man very much does not want to have a public conversation with anyone who knows that they're talking about, even though Grummz has opened his Discord to virtually everybody multiple times and has gone on various podcasts over and over again to talk about his positions. And he has even revealed the game development to the people in his Discord and how that's going. And the things that he has showed people in his Discord has gone against what people like Nick Calandra has said about him. But there's another person who said something too. The only time he's called you out by name was to let people know he's retracting his legal threat, saying that he has at least the sense to know when he's trying to punch above his weight class in clout. Lead narrative designer at Lunacy Studios, founder of Coquito Games, Oi, musician, writer, anthropologist, activist, adventurer, dreamer, opinions are my own. And if you go to that guy's page, the most recent recent post was GDC was good to us. Oh, I sure bet it was. And of course, their most recent retweet is Gameheads as an org building up the next gen of game devs from underrepresented communities. I think that I have some sort of idea of how these people think. And these are the same individuals that have tried to argue with Grummz in the past, have tried to defame him, make him look like he's just scamming a bunch of people, even though there is full transparency in the Discord and that dude is going live talking to people and answering their questions all the time, which is something these guys would realize if they would step out of their comfort zones and actually have a conversation. But when you're blocking people preemptively, it kind of paints the picture that you just don't really want to have a conversation, even though you're trying to push a narrative out there about people, claiming that they're leaving a whole bunch of information out of their posts about you, but then you just go protected and don't talk to anybody else. But that's okay, because there's an entire article saying failed EIC of the escapist Nick Calandra accuses Mark Kern of being a fraud. This was from Fandom Pulse. This was a few days ago, and he said, you want people like Mark Kern to go away and leave people alone who are just doing their jobs and are passionate about games and respect the people working on them. If you guys have watched my videos, you see that respect is at the very back of the bus, okay? It takes a huge back seat. These people do not care about respect. They are constantly on the attack of gamers, white male gamers, etc., etc. Everybody who disagrees with their DEI push, everyone who disagrees with their game choices, there is no respect on the playing field. I don't know what this guy is talking about, but he goes on to say, I think my favorite thing about Mark Kern is that his third failed game, Ember, has an option to buy founders packs for up to $1,500. His little army that wants him to be the savior of games would milk them for all the money they've got. By the way, I went into his Discord one time, Grummz's Discord, to listen to what he had to say about those founders packs, which apparently months ago they took those founders packs down and they have no intention of bringing them back. But there are a couple of things that he fails to mention. One, those founders packs were there because they were going to fund the development of the actual game. They weren't just things for people to buy. They were backing packages that helped the development process of the game, that would financially fund the game, which is why they were so much. And they were completely optional. There were several backing options, which of course was not mentioned. And it says right here, Grummz confirms, we do not sell packs to any newcomers. We do 2 days of every month, offer a limited window for existing backers, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it basically proves that you can read the Fandom Pulse article if you want. But this last part I thought was hilarious. 7 years in the making, 100,000 plus raised, 2 years without updates. Owned community, calling it a scam on Reddit, YouTube, suddenly after reporting the game is back on track and has new stuff ready to go. Must be a total coincidence. Honestly, it must be jealousy on his part. And it says, what failed former editor-in-chief of The Escapist, Nick Calandra, disingenuously fails to mention is that video games can take years to develop. With massive teams and cost hundreds of millions, the huge Rocksteady flop, Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League, which co-indecently made use of Sweet Baby Inc.'s narrative consultancy services, has been in development since at least 2012. That's 12 years at a rumored cost of over $200 million. So I really don't think that there's an excuse or justification for that kind of argument to be made against Grummz. And these people are all going on the same guy's post, banding together against Grummz, talking a whole bunch of smack about him, saying that he's just ruining gaming and that all of the people who follow him are a bunch of dip S's, which is just ridiculous because those are blanket statements. Those are just taking all those people and putting them all under one banner. People who are most likely your customers, talking to you, Riot Games. And this brings to light another problem, vetting. Okay, proper vetting of these community managers and these PR people who are tasked with hyping up your game. They have no interest in having real conversations with gamers, always trying to find a way to get back at gamers, find a way to stick something to gamers for all of their ridiculous requests and just trying to make games fun again. I guess that's something that we're not allowed to ask for. Otherwise, we're just harassing people and making them upset and ruining gaming. And it's ridiculous because most of these people who are all banding together have in the past defended misogynist and racist attacks against gamers. I mean, they're all connected and talking to each other on this post right here. And a lot of them that are talking are in the game industry in some shape or another. And my goodness, look at the things that they're saying. It's just absurd because the one thing that, again, everybody keeps forgetting about is that DEI push to make women ugly is coming from the very top. There is proof for this. Microsoft execs have said this, that they want their gaming studios to uglify women, to take away their proportions. This push encircles a much bigger problem that is up for discussion as well, but it's just reality. And yet these people pretend that it's not happening. Like this person says, I think this entire hot woman discourse can simply be summed up as the difference of process, goals, and results between realism and stylization. Western AAA games tend toward realism and therefore closer to Uncanny Valley, but that's not true because Ubisoft and Respawn Entertainment were able to perfectly scan their actors into their video game characters. It's not like that thing is difficult, but they treat it as if Western developers just don't know how to do it the same way that studios in Korea do it. It's just weird. What a weird argument. And I just don't buy it. And the more that these people trash gamers and insult people's physical appearances and attack them for being white or male or attack them for being gamers, I guess, I mean, the more that these people conglomerate and take the sides of these geniuses who say such horrible things about these people's personal lives and their personalities without even being provoked prior, they are simply exposing themselves to the masses. And you all can see it right here. And what do I always say? Vote with your wallets. Because at the end of the day, that's probably going to be the most effective strategy when combating this nonsense. It's such a shame that people who've worked for Riot Games and editor-in-chiefs of all of these different outlets are just coming out against gamers. But you know what? Keep exposing them, keep talking about it, and I think that over time, retribution will manifest itself. And that's all I have for you all today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you haven't had the chance to like it and share it with your friends, that would be awesome. And hey, if you're feeling ultra spicy, consider subscribing to my channel so that you're always up to date on what kind of thing I've got going on. I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Later. Meow meow.